Yeah, we ready, we ready. This is for the Warriors. Blood on the mat, sweat on my skin. I've been fighting for a win, don't need no gimmick. When the lights go down and the crowd starts to roar, I'm coming for the belt, man, I'm coming for more. The struggle's real, but the hustle's heavy. This ain't a game, it's a fight for the ready. We fight through the noise, breaking down walls. Every time we fall, we rise, stand tall. They talking, they hating, but we keep moving. Ain't no stopping the crowd, we choose it. Through the blood, through the pain, we living for the glory. Through the hurt and the shame, we fight through the noise, can't hear a thing. We making our moves, we own everything. Wrestling through pain, breaking all chains. This is our world, and we taking the reins. Rise up from the ashes, rise from the dirt. From the first bell ring to the final hurt, we fight through the noise, we won't be ignored. This is our story, we're taking the floor. Through the ropes, through the crime, we don't quit. Ain't no fear when you're fighting with grit. Body slam, then we stand, take the blow. A real champ knows when it's time to grow. Tearing up the ring, tear up the doubt.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're live here. I want to thank anybody who's tuning in to join us. This is a special episode. We are absolutely hurting today as professional wrestling fans, as people who grew up with this. I want to first introduce everybody. If you're new to the show or you don't know, that is Mike Holenchek, and below me, and as I always say to him, and I'll start this show with the same joke, and below me, he can blow me, he is Scott Schwartz. You may remember him from such films as A Christmas Story and The Toy, which is one of my all-time absolute favorites. He was a little brat in there. He's a little brat now. And, of course, he's still the reigning CEO of Kidco. So, still the business is doing well. So I'm glad you said that, Vinny. So I'll get things started here. There's so much to talk about with Hulk Hogan that I don't even know where to start. Scott knew him personally. Mike and I never had the chance to meet or talk to him. I don't know if Mike met him, actually. I never had the chance to talk to him.
I didn't. One of my best friends did, actually, once at a Raw in an elevator in the hotel. Just happened to meet him for a few minutes, but that was it. But I myself never.
So I want to address some things, elephants in the room, before we even get started. Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, about 18 years ago, said some racist thing in a room that he didn't know he was being recorded in. Gawker aired that to the world, and they made Hogan out to be David Duke. If you talk to wrestlers, minority wrestlers who have worked with him over the years, people that knew him, that's not Hulk Hogan. And I can't tell anybody how to feel. I can't. If you are a black person and you're feeling a certain way tonight, okay, I can't tell you how to feel. If I'm Italian, if Hogan was talking about us, and used one of those slurs against Italians, I might feel differently today. So I can't tell you how to feel. What I can tell you is this, especially if you're a Christian. Hogan was born again last year. I'm grateful for that. And I believe he's with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, with God and the Holy Spirit in heaven right now. I believe he was very sorry for what he did. And what I would say is, no, I've seen some liberals say some horrible stuff, Vinny. What I would say is this. Any of us, and it might not be the N-word, but something else, whatever we did, any of us, imagine in your worst moment, the worst thing you ever said out loud to somebody else in private. Imagine that got broadcast to the world. How would you look to the world? Any of us. I don't think there's a human being on this planet that would pass that test. Not one. Only one perfect man walked among us. His name was Jesus Christ. His name is Jesus Christ. That's the only perfect man to ever walk among us.
A nice Jewish boy.
A nice Jewish boy, as Scott would say. Yeah, absolutely. I always tell my Christian friends, everybody you love in the Bible is Jewish. So if they don't support Israel, I always tell people that, the Jews, this, the Jews, that. I'm like, that Bible you keep touting, that's all Jews. But Correct. I've seen a lot of liberals, going off on him today because he supported Trump. Man, geez, people are entitled. If something happened to Vinny Carquito tomorrow, he's a liberal. I would feel that. I would hurt because that's my dude. That's my friend, right? Give a shit who he supports. I don't care who he supports in politics. God, there's things bigger in this world than politics. You think these politicians care about you the way you care about them, the way you wear their jersey on your back? They don't.
Here's some fighting words, by the way. So, yeah.
He's putting No Holds Barred up there with the great movies like The Toy, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's an interesting place to start, speaking of that incident that happened, as opposed to the day of infamy that he beats the Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan becomes Hulkamania, and you have generations of people. I don't say kids, because everybody from 5 to 55 was a Hulkamaniac. That anybody that watched wrestling, anybody that watched the shows, No Holds Barred, and some of the horrific films that he did, and he would always say, "Hey, baby, it's a paycheck."
Santa with muscles is a tradition for us every year. This year, I'd like you to join us, Scott.
We
all get together on the phone. Before me, Mike, another friend of ours, we get together on the phone. We watch Santa with muscles.
Yeah, I mean, he had an entire industry, at the time, multi-million, because there was no billions and trillions at that time. But this guy took an entire industry and put it on his back for decades.
Made a lot of people a lot of money.
Well, he put the entire industry on his back, and there was a plan. We're going to go and we're going to send you here and send you there. And this man never said no. It was something that he understood. If he wanted to be that person, then he had to be that person. He couldn't turn away a kid for an autograph or somebody for a photo at any given time, whether it was during dinner. Andre, they spoke so much about being so big and you can't hide and you have to have seats on seats on planes and all that. Well, Hulk Hogan couldn't hide. He was no midget either. It's not like he could stand behind any one of us and nobody could see Hulk Hogan, and it was everywhere. It was, if he left his home, I don't say 24/7 because the man needed to sit at home on the couch and sleep as well, but it was anytime in the general public.
Sure.
We went to dinners, we had lunches and different things along the way. And it's everywhere that people would come up. And, if I was with him, I'd say, "Hey, are you cool with this?" "Yeah, okay." And he would take the picture or the thing or whatever. And then several times at dinner, I would sit on the outside where the people were, and he would sit on the inside by the wall. So basically, people would come over. I say, "Excuse me, can you let the man have a meal in peace?"
Yeah, a lot of celebrities would do that. They would have a wingman.
And I'd be like, "Hey, you got to stay over there. After dinner, you're more than welcome. He'll take a picture. He'll sign your napkin, whatever you want." There's very few people like that. It's embedded in their DNA to be able to understand who they are, what they are, and be a man of the people, a man of the fans. He knew who bought the merchandise.
He understood it, and he appreciated the fans, which I think is the thing. I want to say this to all the fans, and Scott, we'll get into some stories here about you knew him personally, like I said, and I mean, you're very close with Jimmy. You just had spent Thanksgiving with Jimmy and
Christmas.
Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Hart, for those that are watching. So I know you texted Jimmy today. So I want to just say to people, and I'll let Mike talk next. But just if you'll indulge me for just a second, Mike. All of us, none of us are here as wrestling fans today. No wrestler is in WWE or AEW or the Indies or Japan or anything today. If Hulk Hogan doesn't decide in the 1970s to try his hand at a sport called professional wrestling. None of us. So, like, whatever people think of the man, whatever people think of his wrestling ability, whatever people think, Hulk Hogan, and it's not even debatable. I'm not open to a debate about this. You can't debate me on this. Bret Hart and Ricky Steamboat are my two favorite wrestlers of all time. Of all time. But Hulk Hogan was my first favorite wrestler as a kid, just like maybe billions of people. And the fact is, you can go anywhere on this planet. You can talk to somebody who's not even a wrestling fan. You say Hulk Hogan, and they know who you're talking about. He transcended the sport. He put the sport on the map. And so, to the wrestlers who haven't spoken out yet in WWE to offer your condolences, shame on you. To the wrestlers in AEW, same thing. None of you are millionaires today if Hulk Hogan never steps in a wrestling ring. I know it. You know it. The world knows it.
Yeah, but I also say you have to give people their time. You know, it happened this morning. It's a Thursday, and WWE, you know what's coming Monday night.
SmackDown.
I mean,
SmackDown's tomorrow.
SmackDown tomorrow, but they'll do something on Monday Night Raw as well.
So. Yeah.
So, I mean, the current batch of guys and women, the talent that's there, a few may have some comments or statements, but the majority, they really didn't know him. They knew of him, but he wasn't around in many years. So it's like, it's Hank Aaron, that he was there, but he wasn't there. So a lot of the current guys in the 90s and zeros and ones that didn't know him, they just knew Hank Aaron. He's this icon of icons, and or Willie Mays, whoever you want to, Mickey Mantle, whatever. I say you let people have their time. Tomorrow is SmackDown. There ain't going to be a dry eye in the house. Hunter is not where Hunter is without Vince and without Terry, without
Hulk.
And he knows that better than anybody. He did a very nice statement. I read it. It was very heartfelt.
Yeah, Vince McMahon put out a statement too, as did Ric Flair was just devastated.
Well, again, when you're standing over somebody and they're laying in a bed and they need help and they need finances to help with whatever, Rick, the heart attacks and whatever, and Hogan stood there and put his hand in his pocket and said, "You don't worry about this. We'll take care of it. You get well." Those are things that people in life most of the time can't comprehend, and you really understand who has your back and your ass when you're in that position.
Real friends, sure. Mike, go ahead. I want to get your take on what's going on.
Well, one thing first, I want to bring up something that listening to Scott talk about the situation with Hogan and how he would never turn anybody down. It reminded me of a story that Hogan told once, that even when he was with the NWO and was the worst heel and the most hated man in wrestling in the world and stuff, he said if a fan still came up to him to ask for an autograph, he would still sign it for him. He said he'd have to do it heel wise. He'd be like, "Well, here, take it now, go," or whatever and stuff. But he would still sign those autographs for anybody who asked. So no matter what.
He understood he was still Hulk Hogan. Yeah. We understand there's a heel and there's a baby face, but you're still Hulk Hogan. And people grew up with him. They beloved him. He was more than mortal to the youth, especially the kids from 5 to 12, 13, He
was truly a legend. I mean, when you say the term legend, and it's thrown around loosely sometimes, he legitimately was a legend. He turned the entire wrestling business on its ear and into a new direction when he came into the WWF. Then when he left the WWF and went to WCW, he turned them around completely and made them a force. And then even when they had plateaued and were, reached as high as they can, what does he do? He turns heel, and they form the NWO, and he takes it to the next stratosphere. It's like every time that a company reached a certain level and they needed to get pushed farther, they turned to Hulk Hogan because he was the guy. I mean,
listen, again, they'll have conversations of the greatest. and I don't mean just wrestling, I mean in any sport, okay? So whether it's football, Walter Payton or Jim Brown or Tom Brady, okay, and basketball, it's Jordan and Chamberlain and Bill Russell, Kareem, I'd find maybe Kareem, but the other three, okay. In professional wrestling, there is one guy who changed the entire industry. He made it mainstream. He was the first quote unquote professional wrestler, or if you want to say, sports entertainer, to be on the cover of TV Guide and on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
On Saturday Night Live, bro.
Saturday Night Live. I mean, the first guy to go from that point really to movies. What are you going to take? Tor Johnson and say, he was in the B movies, but he wasn't a star. He wasn't the Hulk Hogan. Hogan is just a different thing. He's the Hank Aaron, the Barry Bonds, the Ken Griffey Jr., whoever you want to put on baseball. He's on that Mount Rushmore. And some can argue Andre, but Andre, because of the illness, didn't have the longevity. He had a good 10, 12-year run, 14-year run. And
I would argue Bruno.
Okay, but outside of New York, nobody knew Bruno because it's before cable.
That's also true. Yeah, that's also true.
Hogan was the first to just – he was the –
Oh, no, he was the first. He's the first face on Mount Rushmore.
Right, but he's the cog that takes the territories and gives Vince the strength and the opportunity to go across country, mainstream, everywhere. Along with, again, timing is everything. It was cable,
Yeah. I mean, people can't and you hear this all the time, things from, if you weren't there, you can't understand, but you really can't understand unless you were there what the birth of Hulkamania was actually like what an exciting time it was, what an explosion it was. I still remember I was fortunate enough to start watching wrestling in the fall, really start watching it for the first time in the fall of '83. So I'm in the Northeast, so of course we got WWF here, and I just happened to be watching it right when Hogan came in. I mean, I can remember the Sheik beating Backlund, and I can remember Hogan coming in and he's standing there with Backlund supporting him and stuff. And then next thing you know, Backlund can't wrestle and Hogan gets the title. And I remember watching an episode of All American Wrestling on USA Network and tuning it on. And then all of a sudden there's Mean Gene, talking about, the new champion Hulk Hogan. They show the match and I was completely blown away. Because at that point, again, I had only been watching for a few months, but, I was used to, how can I say this right? Used to wrestling. You saw wrestling. When Hogan came out, it was bigger than wrestling. It was like a spectacle. Even in that 5-minute match with the Sheik, he just came out and the crowd popped and he just had the charisma. You could see it coming through the TV. You could feel it through the TV.
See, I'm a little bit older than you. I started in 75, 76. Every Saturday, if I was at my grandfather watched wrestling. So I would watch it with him. If I remember, it was on WPIX on Saturday mornings.
Channel 11.
Channel 11. And then they had the
that was All-American Wrestling, right? Wasn't that All-American Wrestling?
All-American was All-American USA or was it first?
No, it started before that.
Oh, okay. I
started on the locals. And it was on WNEW Channel 9 at night. They would have it 11 or 11:30,
Mm-hmm.
But so, I grew up with some Bruno Sammartino, and the guys of that time frame, superstar Billy Graham.
You might even be going back to what they was just called Championship Wrestling.
Championship Wrestling, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
But, there was a difference between him and everybody else. Hogan was different than everybody. Bruno talked, okay, and they'd give their talking points, 30 seconds, okay. When Hogan started with, let me tell you something, brother, and he would just go hog wild, batshit crazy in an interview. It changed the dynamics of what we wanted to see and what we watched. He grabbed you. He was an attention grabber. He would grab you and pull you through the screen, and you standing there watching him going, crazy. And that again opens up another avenue of behind the scenes wrestling. Oh, here. It wasn't WPI, both on WWF Channel 9. Thank you, Christopher. Dude, it's been a long time. You're talking,
I thought it was on Pix.
fucking years ago. Excuse my French, but damn near
I thought it was on Pix.
WWR.
I don't know. I remember, like I said, we had some New York stations here. We had Channel 9, WWR, and they had WPIX 11, but I think they were the only New York stations we had at that time. Again, we're talking like 83. So
No, we had the two. You had ABC, NBC, CBS, WPIX, and WWOR. 5 and 11. Oh, and 9.
yeah,
We had 9.
That was WWOR, I think, wasn't
9
it?
was WWR. WPIX was 11.
It's funny we still have them here, but they're a little bit different now.
Well, of course.
I want to say something too. Tonight, a lot of people on eBay, on Facebook, they're selling Hulk Hogan autographs.
Of course they are.
I think that's disgusting.
No, because it happens with every person
It
when
does.
everyone dies.
It does.
In
Every
the
celebrity.
history of as long as eBay has been going, when somebody passes away, people sell them.
And after I kill you, I'm selling the stuff I have signed of you. But I think it's disgusting that people are doing this. I think on the night that I'll tell a quick story. About a week ago, about a month ago, right, Mike? Fanatics calls me. Fanatics handles WWE shop, and so one of the reps calls me. Carm, I got a piece. I think you'd be interested in. I said, what is it? Hulk Hogan signed belt. I said, I don't do a lot of signed belts. I was like, but every now and again, if something special, I've been doing them more, And he's like, well, this is a Hulk Hogan, Hogan 86. It's signed by Hogan. And I see it. It's on the shop as he's talking to me, I'm looking. It's $899. I'm like, I'm not going to get it, right? So the regular price of the belt is $499. He goes, yeah, we got a special today, man, $499. I said, for the signed belt? He's like, yeah. I was like, I'll take it. So he sends it to me. It gets lost by UPS. Okay. So I was like, I called him. I was like, dude, it's lost. Whatever. They send me a new one. So I got it. I actually got it. The other one then was also being sent to me because I checked the tracking again. So now I'm getting the second one free. So me being me, I called him. I was like, hey, look, the one's coming back to me. I was like, send me a label. I'll send it back to you guys because I don't want, I'm not going to take it for free. Yeah, I'm not a thief. And but they managed to do a return to sender on it. But there's no way a Hogan autograph is getting discounted anymore. I got one of the last discounts you're ever going to get, I think, on a Hulk Hogan signed belt.
I'm brokenhearted to say he's not signing anymore. Whatever is out there is out there. Now he signed plenty of stuff. There's no shortage. If somebody wants to buy a Hulk Hogan, just wait 3 months or 4 months, and it'll come back down to an earthly price. It may not come down as low as it was yesterday, but it'll come back down. Okay, fine. But we live in a society.
I got a Thunderlips cape signed by him.
I have one somewhere.
I got a Thunderlips belt signed by him. I got his T-shirt signed by him. I got the Hogan belt signed by him, and I got an 8x10 signed by him. So I got 5 autographs of Hulk Hogan, and you can never have enough Hulk Hogan autographs, right? So, man, it hit me so hard. And Scott, the thing is, guys, is that it started this week. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. When Malcolm Jamal Warner passed away earlier this week. Now, people don't know, Scott went to school with Malcolm Jamal Warner. They were actually really, really close friends. So this has been a really hard week for Scott. That was followed by Ozzy.
It sucks. Yeah. Oh, it started actually before that with Connie Francis.
Yeah.
And then it was Malcolm. And then it was Ozzy.
But I'm talking about just the Gen X 80s kids. Like, as hard as it is for us, these 3 deaths. And I wasn't a big Ozzy fan, but he transcended music. But as hard as this is for us, 2 of these guys were personal friends of yours. So, I mean, that's got to be what a week. Yeah.
Oh, listen, I mean,
I don't mean to rub salt in it. I'm not trying to rub salt in it.
I've had conversations with many of my classmates, talking about Malcolm and all kinds of stuff. And we're all, I mean, Monday, just my head was in a daze, and all day today, my head is in a daze.
And you and I talked for about an hour and a half on Monday.
Yeah. You don't think that people that 40 years and young will just be gone.
Malcolm was the biggest shock of all three, being so young. Hogan we knew was in bad shape. Ozzy we knew was in bad shape. Malcolm came out of nowhere, and to me, see now a lot of people said Hogan and Hogan and Ozzy hit them the hardest. For me, Hogan and Malcolm hit me the hardest. Let me hold on. Let me put that on full screen. You actually have a few pictures I saw on your Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, he, I saw him at a couple of his jazz shows, performing, and he came to the West Coast reunion that we had for our school, and we just yapped, and he was holding Miss Elizabeth, the old doggy, and
I got to meet her.
Yeah, it's hard when you lose people for 4 and 5 decades. 80s, 90s, 0, 1, 2. It's like, oh my God,
and being so young, I think.
Oh,
it's even harder.
Yeah, I mean, Terry, I saw him last September in Chicago at Spectacular, and I didn't go in the back before. I always go afterwards, whatever, and I'm waiting in front of the table, and there's hundreds of people behind me, and they're screaming and yelling. He comes out in his golf cart, and he's waving to everybody, and he gets to the table. He sees me standing. He goes, "Oh my God, my main little brother, Scotty Schwartz, is even here." And he didn't say it about anybody else. Somebody got that clip, actually put it on YouTube, and I don't remember.
I was going to say that was on YouTube.
But it was, and then we went. I went afterwards and we talked, and I said, this is basically our 39th anniversary, of knowing each other. I said, next year's 40. What are we going to do? He goes, "Come over the house, little brother."
Well, so a lot of people don't know Scott was around WWE a lot, and you helped with like ring crew and stuff.
Yeah, I ring crewed.
You were on the road with them for a couple of years, so
it was like 16 months.
Yeah, so
15,
you had a lot of fun. I mean,
I had
you were really close with Randy and Elizabeth more than anybody. You were really close with Savage and Elizabeth, from my understanding, right?
Yeah.
And look, man, I mean, I don't think it's hit me yet. My girlfriend, I tried to tell my girlfriend, explain to her how big of a deal it is, and she's, I guess she related it to like how Matthew Perry was for her, but I'm like, it's even bigger than that because you didn't know Matthew Perry till you were an adult. My first memories in life are of watching this man on the television slaying the evil giant and the evil King Kong Bundy and the evil Kamala and Paul Orndorff, who betrayed him, and Big John Studd, and fighting for America. And I think, I'm so passionate today in large part because of Hulk Hogan. So, Mike, let me ask you, what are some of your earliest memories? My earliest memory is Bundy at WrestleMania 2. What's your earliest memories of Hogan?
Well, honestly, my earliest memory of Hogan is Rocky 3, Thunder Lips, because again, I wasn't watching wrestling at that point, but all of a sudden here comes this big dude, coming out to beat up Sylvester Stallone, and I'm like, what the hell is that? As far as wrestling goes, like I said, I remember when he debuted. Well, I shouldn't say debuted. I guess this would have technically been his second debut in the WWE when he came back in '83, because he was there before that as a heel with Freddie Blassie as the manager. But I can remember that. I remember his feud at the time. I look back on it through the eyes of being legendary. Now people today will probably say, what's the term they use? The drizzle and shits, I think is the term that I've heard used about the matches and stuff. Him and Nikolai Volkov, America versus Russia, that feud. I distinctly remember this, and this got brought up in the past few years after the Iron Sheik passed away. And I remember one of the things one time he was going on one of his rants, about it. The fuck the Hulk Hogan, that son of a bitch, he'd never give me a rematch for the title. I put him over in front of 20,000 people, Madison Square Garden, brother. And he don't even get the rematch. That's what they thought of me. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, you're full of shit. You did have a rematch, because I remember watching it on one of the Coliseum videotapes back in the day. It was him and Hogan in a rematch for the title, and I remember it was a rare, at that time, I guess you would say, double DQ with him and Hogan both getting DQ, because at one point Hogan took Sheik's boot off and started beating him over the head with it, and Sheik's bleeding like not. And Sheik got a hold and he bust Hogan open, and the ref threw the whole thing out and stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You got plenty of rematches against Hogan.
But that's all a shoot. That's all
Yeah.
baloney. It's just to stir the pot, and all of those guys made more money because of Hogan having the belt. Wherever he went, the money went.
Oh God, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The A shows.
It's not like she could pack a house. It's not like he could pack the Madison Square Garden. That's not going to happen.
No, Sheik was working till the end.
Oh yeah,
He was always a worker. You know,
he's
so
a hell of a worker though. And again, the world changed. The whole thing with Russia and United States and Iran and whatever. It's tough to pull that off now. Nikolai Volkov doing the Russian. I mean, it was bullshit.
yeah.
But people dug it, and he's the heel. And the whole thing with Hogan with waving the American flag in the middle of Desert Storm and all that. Oh, Jesus, I mean, I have one of three that exist. When the WWF went on the USO tour, it was Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon, and Steve, the photographer of WWF. And Vince made up jackets for them, Steve Taylor. And WWF had made up jackets, for the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had their name in the lapel. And I ended up getting Steve's jacket. He was moving and had to get rid of stuff because he didn't want to move 8 gazillion things. So I ended up basically buying some stuff, but some stuff like this was a gift. This was his photo from his office. But I had Hogan sign it. And he was too busy to sign Hulkamania and all the shit that I wanted. I said, I'll get that done later. Not done later, but I do have that signed, the USO jacket. And I have a few other things, but what he did was change an entire industry. I mean, you could say Elon Musk changed, electric vehicles. Well, Hulk Hogan, sports entertainment, professional wrestling, he changed the whole game.
Yeah, it went from, like they said back in the day, the dark, dimly lit gymnasiums and stuff where guys smoking and having beers and stuff, into, like you said, sports entertainment, and here comes the whole family, the mother, the father, the 2 kids, and not only they're going to come there, they're going to buy the merchandise, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to buy the pay-per-views. Yeah, none. You could actually put a line right in professional wrestling history and say pre-Hogan and post-Hogan, and how much he changed everything. It's just.
And listen, when you get to Hogan leaving and they have that downtime in the industry, and I don't blame Bret Hart, there just wasn't that exciting guy, that monster, as I say it, that was there to draw
Superman, dude. He was
Exactly.
Superman in the flesh.
Exactly.
He was Superman that you could go meet.
Drawing eyeballs.
Yeah.
Drawing eyeballs. Now, of course, he leaves and then he does whatever and he goes to Thunder in Paradise and he's shooting down there. He had no real plans to go back to wrestling. The body was worn and torn, but it healed. He felt better. And Ric Flair showed up with Bischoff.
Yep.
And Bischoff basically said, how much do you want? And Hogan gave him a number and Bischoff said, sure, no problem. And Hogan never expected the yes to the question. I think I want to say it was around 5 to 8 million, I think, the first year.
Wow.
And then things were based upon performance of pay-per-views and other things that he would get bonuses. He didn't expect them to say yes, but Bischoff knew he's the gorilla. He's Secretariat. He's Godzilla. He's going to draw the eyeballs. He's going to get this whole machine rolling. And as you said, Carmine, he was the guy. But he never had any intentions of going back to wrestling. That was not his thing. He loved making movies. He didn't give a shit if they were horrible movies, because it's so much easier to get thrown around all the time.
Correct.
I remember, since you know him well, if this was a true story, I remember hearing a story one time that they had offered, when he was doing Thunder in Paradise, that they had offered to have him via helicopter flown from his house to the shooting, wherever the locations were, like every day. And he turned it down because he was deathly afraid of helicopters. He said he'd rather drive his car, ride his motorcycle at 4 o'clock in the morning on an empty highway with nobody there. And he said if I crashed, I was done. There was nobody around.
But he didn't do that either because they had they rented him a house in Orlando anyway.
Oh, okay.
So he was going. Some days he went back and forth. Some days he just stayed in Orlando at a house there, that they had.
I'm just really sad. I'm just really sad, man. I'm
Oh.
sad. I don't know.
Anybody who loves the industry, knows who the man is, there are very few people you meet that say, oh my God, I just hate Hulk Hogan. It's just very, very few.
A little more
Very
now.
few. Yeah, but it's
Well, people that don't know him. I just saw a tweet from Michael Irvin, okay, who last time I checked is pretty black. And he was like, RIP to my brother. And the people that knew him knew who he was. I didn't get to know him, so I don't know him. I know the superhero on my television, right? That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
I will always appreciate Hulk Hogan. I love Hulk Hogan. I've made money from professional wrestling. I owe that to Hulk Hogan. I do. Everybody who's made money in professional wrestling from 1985 on owes some debt to Hulk Hogan, and they'll all tell you it. Even people that don't like him will tell you it.
Well, let's just for a second, let's take finances out of it. Anybody who watched 5 minutes and enjoyed the talents of this man can just say thank you that I was here to see something. Now, others like the three of us who've watched God knows how many thousands of hours, it's different. It's like you got to see Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Now, not every generation got to see it. Of course, they can watch it on video. We understand that. It's different when you're TV or you're sitting in the stands.
It's not the same.
I
got to actually be at several Hulk Hogan matches at the Meadowlands Arena, Madison Square Garden, and Madison Square Garden and Meadowlands, both electric. When he
Saturday main event, Uncle Elmer got married. Hulk Hogan against Nikolai Volkov. I'm sitting in the front row wearing my yellow and red Hulk Hogan hat.
Oh, God.
And the black jacket that Vince gave me. I don't remember.
I'm going to have to look for that now. I'm going to have to look for that on the
I was just thinking
that. Look for you in the crowd.
Well, he's got a picture. I can get a picture?
Yeah, just give me a second here.
If we get the picture, you can show us. Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many memories. We'll talk about it more Tuesday, obviously, on our show. I thought you had it. There's so many memories. God, if you were a kid in the 1980s, man, Hulk Hogan. I wasn't prepared for this passing. I wasn't. I'll always love Hulk Hogan, and I'll always appreciate Hulk Hogan. He was a flawed human being, right? We're not going to lie. Everybody here is a flawed human being. Everybody in this world is a flawed human being. He had flaws. He wasn't perfect. But, the things he did for Make-A-Wish, the things he did from his heart. I mean, you talk to people even that didn't like him and said that he loved doing that for those kids.
So his right leg, if you look just to the right of that, there's a kid wearing the black jacket, the orange and red hat, and my hand is up in the air. Hang on. Let me just get you can see. Hang on. I am right
there. You are.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see the hand up. Yep.
There you are.
Okay. But that was just that night, which was, one of the first nights I ever went to.
Oh, really? Now, how long were you watching wrestling at that point? Like, what was the first year you watched wrestling? Who was the big star?
Oh, no, it's Bruno, because it was like 75, 76. I was 7 years old, 7 something, 7, 8 years old.
I was born in 77.
my grandfather, and like I said, if we weren't at his house, I would be at our house in Jersey.
My mom hated wrestling and she loved Hulk Hogan.
My mother loved wrestling because she grew up in that house with my grandfather, and that he loved wrestling. Yeah. My mother was watching wrestling in the 50s with Gorgeous George, for God's sakes.
Oh my God.
Even my wife, who doesn't watch wrestling, doesn't care about it, doesn't give a damn. When there's a pay-per-view, I usually go on my friend's house, and she's like, "Good, go ahead, because you're out of the house for tonight. I don't have to watch this crap." She texted me today from work and said, "Do you know Hulk Hogan died?" I mean,
my sisters who don't watch a lick of wrestling, texted me. So I want to say that where were you when, right?
But they know. They didn't tell you about the Ultimate Warrior,
correct?
And they didn't tell you. Maybe Randy Savage, maybe not, but Hulk Hogan, a different thing altogether.
Dude, people that, like I said, my sisters who didn't watch wrestling, isn't texting me like crazy. My nephew, so I'm recording videos for work. It's about, 11:30, about 11:30 a.m.
Yeah,
somewhere around there. I'm recording
11:35, 11:36. It came over. Yeah,
and I got my ringer off, but it's in my hand because my phone's in my hand. Because I got to read the headlines that I'm working with, and so instead of put my glasses on and reading from the computer, I keep my phone in my hand. And so, next video, this is the headline. I know the story. Roll it, okay? And so that's how I do it. And my phone's going nuts. And now the first thing I see is missed call from my nephew, missed call from my sister, back to back. I got one more video to shoot, and now I'm scared because my sister and my nephew called me back to back when they know I'm working, right? Because I got my studio right next to my bedroom. And so they know I'm working. And so I was like, oh, shit. And then as I get done, I take my headset off, and then my tie off and all that stuff, because I get undressed or whatever. And I look down at the phone, and my nephew texts me, Hulk Hogan died. And I dropped my phone. I was like, nah, he can't. It's got to be wrong. He's wrong. He's hearing a rumor. And then I picked the phone back up, and text message. Some people from WWE who I'm not going to name drop, right? But some famous people texting me, some family, friends that know that how much I love wrestling, texting me. My friend Pat contacted me. I contacted Jeff Parthay, who is the guy we all know from the wrestling hobby, who is probably the biggest Hulk Hogan fan that's ever existed. And he was just devastated. He had to leave work. That's how devastated he was. So I love Hulk Hogan. I'll always love Hulk Hogan. And mainly, I want to say thank you, Hulk Hogan. I appreciate you. I thank you for the memories and the joy and the entertainment you gave me for my entire life. And some of the best childhood memories a kid could have, for being a real life superhero, for telling kids to pray to God, for telling kids to be patriotic and to train and to take their vitamins. And even if you didn't follow the things that you set forth, even though maybe you did steroids, maybe you did cocaine, whatever you did, because you're a flawed human being like everybody else, you taught the right lessons, and that is important. And there's a generation of kids that is better off for having you. And I would ask people, before you judge this man in any other way, I want you to think about things you've done in your worst moments and what the world would think of you if they knew about them. I guarantee you, you look deep in yourself. Don't tell anybody else. Look deep in yourself. Things you've said or done in your worst moments. What would the world think of you? And if you can pass that test, then you're a better person than anybody I know.
We get tested in this life, to make judgments about people, things that they've done. Nobody was perfect, again, the steroid era, they had their thing like baseball and all that kind of shit. And it's like, well, okay, it's not real, folks. It's entertainment. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and 25 other bodybuilders or athlete, they did stuff too, but we don't hate them because they did it. It helped the job. It's what made it, this. That's not all natural. I'm sorry to say it was what it was, but it doesn't matter. It's the politics. It's the last time, Hogan is at WWE in LA, and they're booing him because it was after the Republican National Convention. And I'm like, he laughed. He thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And I talked to Jimmy Hart after that, and he's like, they're both laughing. He goes, hey, publicity's publicity. We don't care. It don't matter,
But
and it's not they had hate
of it.
They just now it's he likes Trump, therefore.
Mick Foley is a huge liberal. I still enjoy Mick Foley.
I don't care what any of them are.
I
It's
still
irrelevant.
enjoy Kevin Nash.
It's irrelevant what any of them are. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, or shouldn't
You have a right in America to support who you want to support. It's America.
Where do we live? What country are we in?
Support.
Of course.
And
You
gotta
got
respect
somebody, you got somebody who is just beyond beloved by so many millions and millions of people, and we all have the same memories. Hogan slamming Andre, WrestleMania 3, the mega powers, the things that we love and enjoy. I mean, I'm afraid to turn on Peacock tonight and watch WrestleMania 3 because it's going to be overloaded.
Probably.
Probably. People, the generation of 25, well, no, not 25 would be too young. Let's say 30 to 50-year-olds who have 10-year-olds to 20-year-olds who never saw Hulk Hogan.
It's funny.
And they're going to show them Hulk Hogan. That's
Al Snow asks professional wrestlers. He doesn't do it anymore because they know the answer now. But when he's training wrestlers, he would always ask them, what's the best match at WrestleMania 3? It's an easy one, right?
Of course.
People say Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. It's an easy one, right? He goes, no, that's not the best match at WrestleMania 3. The best match at WrestleMania 3 was Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. And everyone's like, it wasn't a great match. He goes, that's the match that drew 93,000 people. That's the best match.
Well,
because fuck the wrestling ability, fuck the catch can technical. That's the match that drew 93,000 people to the building.
To Detroit.
That's the best match.
To Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, so it's Andre and Hogan was. I remember as a kid, I'm sitting in the car with my sister Joanne.
Wait, was there like 7 matches that night? 7 or 8 matches? That was it.
Oh, no, it was more than that, right, Mike?
It was like 12 or some almost. Yeah, there was a ton
many?
of matches. There were, but a lot of them were short. Yeah, a lot of them were really short. Not as bad as WrestleMania 2 with its multitude of 2-minute matches.
Oh, my God.
Short,
yeah, looking back on WrestleMania 2 now, man, you know what? I guess I felt a special fondness for WrestleMania 2 because it was the first WrestleMania I remembered. But holy crap, it was bad. Looking back on it now, it was bad because the matches were not long.
WrestleMania 2, you've got Hogan and Bundy in the blue cage.
That was literally the best match on the card.
Well, but the point is that was the one they were most worried about. You had the Battle Royal in Chicago. That really, it was just what it was because they put all the football players in there.
That was cool. That was cool.
And
Piper and T was cool.
New York had Piper and T. That I worked that match.
Shut up. Really?
Oh, yeah. What is it? I think just when the match begins, when they start the bout, it's like 15 or 18 seconds. I walk right between the bottom rope and the ring. You can see me walk across the back because they put me on a APB to go find something. Don't remember what the hell it is now, but somebody said, "Oh, it could be ringside." So I went ringside and looked and whatever. But I helped put up the corner panel and I did all the celebrities' dressing rooms and that shit for WrestleMania 2. That it wasn't. They didn't put it together good enough. Piper was not a big fan of Mr. T because he wasn't a wrestler, and he's like, "What are you doing in my industry?" And whatever. Yes. He got the point that it was box office and it was money in his pocket, but he certainly was not going to go to T and go, "Hey, let's work this thing out, rehearse for 5 minutes, whatever." Forget it. That was not going to happen.
I'll always remember WrestleMania 2 for Dynamite Kid almost dying on camera, and nobody cared. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. When at the end of the match, and it was such an awkward finish too. Like it was the Dream Team against the Bulldogs for the tag title, and Dynamite comes running over with Valentine, I believe it was, and Dynamite's like up on the second rope, and holding on to the top rope, like leaning into the ring, and he just cracks Valentine's head off. Like it just gives him like basically a headbutt. You know, cracks Valentine's head off Dynamite's head. Dynamite goes falling backwards, right onto the concrete. And next thing you know, at the back of his head thing busted open. Nobody cared. All they cared about was Ozzy Osbourne and Haskell. Well, yeah. How much of an inspiration were you for them to win the titles? Oh, the greatest man. That stuff. And meanwhile, Dynamite's there holding his head together. I'll never forget that for as long as I live.
All right, so New York, Paul Orndorff, Morocco, Randy Savage and George and George Animal Steel, Jake Roberts and George Wells. Nobody cared. And the last match was Mr. T. So that's what I got to be ringside for. You know, it's like, you know, thank God. At least it was, you know, I got to hang out with Randy and Liz that night. That was, you know, whatever.
Well, I can remember the Chicago portion, 2 of the matches. Yeah, the other 2 besides the Battle Royal and then the tag title match. First one was Moolah defending the title against Velvet McIntyre, I think. That match was like 1 minute and 12 seconds. That was over, you know, super quick. Apparently, because I didn't know at the time, and I just found this out like a couple of years ago. I guess apparently Velvet had a malfunction, a wardrobe malfunction. So they had to like end it quick and have basically Moolah just pin her like super quicker than it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay.
And then a flag match between Volkov and Corporal Kirshner.
Yep.
And that lasted all of like 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Nothing.
That was over too. And I was like, wow, okay. You know, we're just rolling along here, you know. Let's just get them out as quickly as possible.
Let's talk about the fact
But
that
wait, then you had the Battle Royal.
Yeah.
And that lasted whatever it was, 15, 18 minutes, which is a very short Battle Royal.
Yeah.
And then you had the British Bulldogs against Valentine and Beefcake. And that's it. I mean, that's all people in Chicago got to see was that it.
Yep.
And then we watched the Jumbotron on the big screen. That's we watched the other places. Yeah.
I would arguably say, in my opinion, the LA portion was the best because I mean you had Steamboat and Hercules, which was interesting, but you know there was no real build up to that. They just were like, okay, we're just gonna have them, you know. But it wasn't a bad match. There was an atrocious Uncle Elmer versus Adrian Adonis match. I mean,
well, let's talk about the fact that
it wasn't good. I'm sorry, it wasn't good.
Let's talk about the fact that Hulk Hogan was one of one. Okay, he was one of one. He was in the '80s. We were talking about this before. You had Madonna. You had Michael Jackson, you had Mr. T, you had Hulk Hogan, you had Gary Coleman, you had Mike Tyson. These were the guys. These were the faces, the men and women, the faces. Bill Cosby. Sorry, people don't like it. Bill Cosby. You know, these are the faces of our 80s childhood and you know, amazing. We also have to talk about the fact that this is a man who catapulted the industry in the 1980s, then turned around and catapulted the industry again in the 1990s by turning heel. He was perhaps, number one, he was the best babyface in the history of wrestling, bar none. There's not even a close second. And arguably, he's also the best heel in the history of professional wrestling. He was both. That, you know, impossible that sounds, but he was both of those things, the best face and the best heel. How do you pull that off? Hulk Hogan did. And I'm not going to sit here and, you know, a lot of people are going to pretend tonight that Hulk Hogan was their favorite wrestler. He was my first favorite wrestler. He's the first face on my Mount Rushmore, but I like a more technical match. So, you know, if I'm going to sit down and watch matches, it's usually those guys, not Hulk Hogan, not Andre, not the big guys, but I always appreciated them. And of course, when I was a kid, Yes, Hulk Hogan was my favorite. Yes, I wanted Hogan to slay the giant. Yes, I sat there in the car with my sister Joanne, and I remember driving with her, and I go, I don't think he can beat Andre. I think it's real. I'm a kid. I don't think he can beat Andre. And she's like, why? I was like, he's too big. He's too big. He can't beat Andre. Andre's going to kill him, you know? And I was scared. And
he was probably in the top 3 best heels of all time. Piper is still one of the all-time great heels. There's no question. Without him, there is no gelling that much of WrestleMania to make it work the way it worked. You know, who are you going to put there? You know, I'm trying to think of another heel in the mid 80s like that. You know, Nikolai Volkov. You know, no, it wouldn't have been the same heat as what Piper did.
No.
You know, but Hogan.
Yeah, and there was never a bigger pop. And let's not forget the pop. There's never a bigger pop than when you heard Real America. But one of the biggest pops I ever heard was when Rock hit him with the rock bottom and Hogan kicked out and did the thing. That's one of the biggest pops I ever heard in the history of wrestling.
Well, I was going to bring that up too. Let's not forget. Yeah, 2002. It comes back to the WWE, and with Hall and Nash, the NWO, and the fans literally turn him face. Doesn't matter what he does. Yeah. You love him so much they turn him face. He's running over Rock with trucks. You know, he's beating the hell out of Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know, it just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what he did. They loved him so much. They
loved Hulk Hogan. They wanted Hulk Hogan back. So with that, guys, we're going to get going. We'll be back at you Tuesday, and I'm sure we're going to talk more Hulk Hogan. Scotty, thank you so much. And, you know,
there was more stories maybe if I'm around on Tuesday.
I was going to say, if you want to pop on Tuesday,
yeah,
I think we'd love to have you.
I'm going to go eat some dinner.
You've had a rough week, my friend.
Oh, Christ.
And
I don't want that one anymore.
As always, I'm here to talk to you if you need it, man. You know that. I love you, brother.
Thanks, Mikey. Stay well, man.
And God bless everybody. We love you guys. God bless you. Take care, everybody.
And one last important thing: say a prayer tonight for Hogan's family and friends who need.
Yes,
I agree.
Amen.
Yeah, we ready. This is for the Warriors. Blood on the mat, sweat on my skin. I've been fighting for a win, don't need no gimmick. When the lights go down and the crowd starts to roar, I'm coming for the belt, man, I'm coming for more. The struggle's real, but the hustle's heavy. This ain't a game, it's a fight for the ready. We fight through the noise, breaking down walls. Every time we fall, we rise, stand tall. They talking, they hating, but we keep moving. Ain't no stopping the crowd, we choose it. Through the blood, through the pain, we living for the glory. Through the hurt and the shame, we fight through the noise, can't hear a thing. We making our moves, we own everything. Wrestling through pain, breaking all chains. This is our world, and we taking the reins. Rise up from the ashes, rise from the dirt, from the first bell ring to the final hurt. We fight through the noise, we won't be ignored. This is our story, we're taking the floor. Through the ropes, through the climb, we don't quit. Ain't no fear when you're fighting with grit. Body slam, then we stand, take the blow. A real champ knows when it's time to grow. Tearing up the ring, tear up the doubt.